Okay, and now I'm letting people in. Okay. Well, welcome, everyone. Delighted to have you here. I was spending a little time trying to connect us on Facebook, which unfortunately didn't happen. But we're delighted that you're here with us Sunday evening. Welcome to the Speculative Sundays Poetry Reading Series for Speculative Poetry Month, because November is Speculative Poetry Month. I am Akua Leslie Hope, speaking to you from the ancestral land of the Onondaga, also known as the Seneca, keepers of the Western Door in the Southern Finger Lakes region of New York State. I pay homage to the Seneca, past, present, and future, and to my own ancestors, by whose grace I exist and am sustained. This series was made possible in part by the Artist Development Grant Program administered by the Arts Council of the Southern Finger Lakes and funded by the Community Foundation of Elmira Corning and the Finger Lakes. By poets and writers with public funds from the New York State Council on the Arts. And this year, the statewide community re-grant program, a re-grant program of the New York State Council on the Arts with the support of the Office of the Governor and the New York State Legislature, and administered by the Arts Council of the Southern Finger Lakes, enables us to be here. May it ever be so, not just for this endeavor to be supported, but may funding for the arts, funding for arts in the schools continue. This reading is being recorded, so if you have concerns, please turn off your camera. A little history. Inaugurated in September 2020, the series seeks to remediate the paucity of presentations of speculative poetry by its living creators. Now in its 6th year, the Speculative Sundays reading series has presented over 50 hour-long events, including over 80 poet readings. Speculative poetry. You say, what is that? It's ancient of days, older than the flood. The poetry of possibilities centers the imagined as real. The first recorded human literature, was speculative verse. Gilgamesh, the Ramayana, the Mahabharata, the Iliad and Odyssey, and Beowulf are ancient examples. Speculative poetry includes alternate history, apocalyptic, astro poetry, cryptid, cyberpunk, dystopian, fabulism, fairy tales, fantasy, folklore, futurism, horror, magic, monsters, mythology, occult, paranormal, post-apocalyptic, robots, romantasy, science fiction, shifters, slipstream, solar funk, space opera, superhero, supernatural, sword and sorcery, sword and soul, steampunk, time travel, utopian, and weird. It takes all poetic forms, plus one of its own called sci-fi coup. From nursery rhymes, remember those? To Edgar Allan Poe's The Raven, from Puff the Magic Dragon to Zombie Jamboree. We've all recited and sung speculative poetry. You can find the series recordings on the Speculative Poetry YouTube channel. And the list of past poets is at our website, Speculative Poetry. Our first reader is Angel Leal. They say, they, them, she is a Latine, trans, non-binary writer who likes to write sad, weird poems. Their work has appeared or is forthcoming in Strange Horizons, Uncanny, The Deadlands, Heartlines Spec, and elsewhere. They've been nominated for the Pushcart Prize, Best of the Net, the Rhysling Award, and are co-administrator of CALAMITOUS, a queer sci-fi and fantasy writing group. Welcome, Angel.
I just want to say first, thank you for that opening and thank everyone for coming today. It means so much to have people here. Um, and recently Dia de los Muertos passed, so I want to start my first poems dedicated, my first one dedicated to my Dia who passed away and was a very mysterious and magical man. This poem is called The Magician's Foundling by Angel. When you found me, you fed me with spells painted on your fingertips. And when you held me, taught me how to speak to birds, I knew the hairy myth of a father, naming the world before my eyes. But if I lay by your stomach, I sensed the summer smell of a mother. The garden crusting off your feet reminded me of berries and the healing sun, and the forgotten sound of being called inside. Your voice was the house. In dreams, I still hear my home. Leave your mouth in puffs of smoke. Tío, mi viejo mago. When you fell, I lost my nerve for years. Only now, with clumsy words, I tiptoe back to a dead man's bedroom, rummaging drawers for seeds and the secrets behind your loneliness. Why did you search for stars instead of lovers and raise a child you picked off the ground? Why did you sleep alone with your magic and gift me all of your time? So, to continue, I have two more poems dedicated to family. The next one is to the father who couldn't raise me because he was arrested when I was a baby. But he sent me letters and he used to send me little paintings he did in jail. So this poem is called Wildlife and Rainforests Inside My Father. My father once said, there's a little animal growing inside me, and it builds things in there. Old maps made of flowers, tiny temples where lizards worship. How, I asked, what does your animal find material to build? Isn't it obvious, he said, from my memories. The animal still knows the color of my mother's hands, the taste of blood when my father struck me, and peaches, all the peaches I ate falling in love. The animal knows me better than a policeman. I'm called thief now, but an animal is growing a rainforest between my ribs. I hear colorful birds flapping in my dreams, and my pillows are always damp with rain. No, father, I say, you've been crying. You need help. He wouldn't listen. He lifted his shirt and his belly kicked, I thought, with an animal inside. I touched it, my father's stomach, and felt the pull of life. Maybe not a builder of temples or rainforests, but a small, lost, artistic animal. And my last family poem is to my mother, who struggled with mental health and so had to give me up to my grandmother to raise me. So this poem is called My Mother Dreams of Endlessness. Her hands want to pray inside the mouth of a tiger. Her eyes want to see the shadow of a god cast against her bedroom wall. My mother hardly leaves her room, but the rain she's collected is enough for her to swim in. I've caught her diving into bed and splashing wildly like a summer girl. I've found her weeping at the bottom of the pool and holding her breath under heavy sheets. Sometimes her hair is blood moon red, and even her pill bottles seem filled with moonlight. She's happiest at the idea of a pilgrimage where we finally find our childhood, buried in the sand of an endless desert. I carry the little girl on my back, like a tireless camel, and she carries a young, frightened me to her chest, singing the song of motherhood she didn't know the first time. Okay. Thank y'all so much for listening. This next one is actually dedicated to someone in this room. This one is to Angela Costa, who is one of the most inspiring poets I've ever met and wonderful people that I know. The poem is called Hermanas de Andromeda. To Angela Costa. You who travel the cosmos and attend quinceañeras in the stars. You who carry Spanish aboard every ship and protect her from annihilation. Thank you, hermana. You've helped me look up again. I, who feared the unknown, whose dreams tend to stay on land, feel inspired to join you, to let my body fall without gravity, without shame, past that scream of stars, and into a new hemisphere of impossible freedom. There, by Andromeda, will I spin my dark dress y bailar sin miedo. And if it takes time for my ship to arrive, even a lifetime, I will still practice the steps on land. I will memorize star charts hidden in your poems, and somehow find the cosmic in my mother's hands, in a meal, in a distant memory. That's one of my favorites because that's someone that's still alive that I know. Love you, Ajay. Okay. So now the next poems are going to be um more sci-fi, I feel, and more introspective. This one is called The Time Travel Body. And among other things, is about the sheer will to escape the boxes people from your past leave you inside. The time travel body mourns as it repeats its mistakes. Another night spent hungry, a starving machine. You already know this timeline. The traveling body stops mid-memory. Male friends squeeze biceps, eyes glowing, electric moments of fingers poking pockets of fat, running, jumping out of your skin. The time travel body is memory and wires and flesh, surging with possibility. Why does it take us home, where old friends can find your new face, still forming into a woman? Who are you, friend? You always take change too far. If you're a woman, then this is science fiction. Yes, it is, says the time travel body. Because change belongs to eyes that can make up tomorrow, invent possibility. And we still speak. So I know this is science fiction. Goodbye, says the time travel body. I loved you as boys love. A warp of years sinks us through time. And now I'm beginning here. Ooh. Thank you. That one. Oh, okay. One last sci-fi poem. Then thank y'all so much for your support. Um, this one is called GPS Girl. It's an old traditional tale of a robot girl finding agency and then eventually getting depression. So, a constant, enormous vision. Her satellite eye can see cities without end. But where can she go if her body is her sight? When can she say what she needs if her mouth is our direction? All it's missing is a hair that was never installed. All that's missing are the heat-sensitive hands and childhood memories, the chasing of a blue wing, the wetness of fruits on her fingertips, the awe and fear of a taller world. The model after will receive these updates. It will be natural for her to sing, to turn the lights on. She will produce her own light. She will pass as a girl. The mouth of awareness brings her hunger. She eats indiscriminately the shavings of a pencil, the wings of a bee, divorce papers, anything her makers hand her dry tongue. Eating is a profound act. She understands now that she has teeth. But the need to eat is close to loneliness. To have something missing from the body reminds her of other needs. We found machines aching strangely for company. Some surround themselves with inanimate objects and refuse to eat alone. If GPS Girl outlives all girls of flesh, if steel bones don't break down, and immortal numbers spin her mind to unfathomable depths, will her thoughts ever mirror our tendency towards guilt, pain? With infinite time, is there a need to heal? If she's made to last, stainless, sharp corners, can she still somehow wound herself? Yes, GPS Girl can regret and make mistakes. But with infinite time, maybe she can fix herself as often as she breaks down. Maybe she can still find a softer reflection, even innocence lost in her labyrinth of time. All right. Y'all have been lovely. We're almost done. Um, this is another poem that came out this year. And this is about a sailor, trans girl sailor, who prays to a sea goddess to help her love the way she looks. It's called She Brings Me Waves, She Brings Me Wind. I know her because her hair drags with homesick stars, and her hands are rough like a sailor's. I know her loneliness looks like a fish struggling in a man's net, and her freedom looks like a stormy night. Two girls holding shells to their ears, hearing wonders echoes of drowned lovers. They kiss, and I know her by the long summer still under her nails. The way she brings me waves, brings me wind, when I still feel like a man. I know then she sees me stuck on shore, a mortal, hoping for the goddess to bless their face with tomorrow. Tomorrow is almost here, feels like a far off, impossible land. But I know her, the girl buried in the sand of memory. She who was fearless in all waters, swims in me still. When I'm far from rivers, the touch of a kind mirror, I still know her. How am I doing on time? Any time for another poem? Okay. This one is dedicated to every tired poet, every tired writer, every disorganized person. I wrote it when I realized I had ADHD, and there was a reason why when I was writing, it always felt like my life was falling apart. And it's called The Witch Recalls a Cry. I used to write rainfall into existence. With only symbols and blood, I could change a tree into a wise man, a stone into a laughing child, a flame into a companion to warm me under the sheets. Back then, I had time to study stars and chase the truth of hummingbirds. Now I can hardly keep my hut clean. The floor is littered with unfinished spells, the bones of beasts I don't remember. There must be a spell for this feeling, a rhythm of incantations that can give me my life back. Not youth, but the dreaminess of swamps and fireflies. Not the freedom to create, but the balance of living while dreaming. Ama, is there a secret chant, a trembling bird in the middle of my tongue, who always remembers the language of miracles? Nunca supe, my mother said, her tired mouth wrinkled by the seasons, seldom whispers to the wind anymore. I leave my mother and sit by a lonely beach. The waves fill my hand with blue memories. Maybe this is enough. Maybe some magic only lives in between a passing light, underneath a stolen morning, and the unending impulse to form a sigil in the sand. Thank you all so much.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. So moving, so deeply evocative, compelling, and beautiful angel. Wow, we. Oh, thank you so very much. Thank you so much. It was glorious. Your work is just evanescent and delicious and lovely and moving. Thank you. Oh, deep breath. Mm, mm, mm. You had me here squealing and crying and just enjoying all the places that you took us and all the innards that you showed us. Mm, thank you. Well, we've got another wonderful creator this evening. Lori R. Lopez wears various hats as a speculative and dark poet, horror and fantasy author, abstract artist, songstress, and reclusive activist for animals and children. Growing up, Lori roamed graveyards and conducted funerals for dead birds, squirrels, insects, and spiders. Her offbeat books include The Dark Mister Snark, Leery Lane, and Ill Wind Blows, Darkverse, The Shadow Hours, Odds and Ends, and The Fairy Fly. Among many honors, in 2023, Lori won third place for the long category of the Science Fiction and Fantasy Poetry Association Poetry Contest for Wake Unto Death. Her poetry collection, Darkverse, was nominated for an Elgin Award and a finalist in the Kindle Book Awards. She's had any number of poems nominated for the Rhysling Award. And I'm going to skip ahead. And Creatures of the Macabre and the Maw, her poems received Editor's Choice Awards. While serving in the U.S. Navy as a journalist, Lori was nominated for the American Spirit Honor Medal. Stories and verse have appeared in The Siren's Call, The Horrorzine, Space and Time, Spectral Realms, Journey, Weird Book, Oddball Magazine, Bewildering Stories, Dreams and Nightmares, Inspired, Altered Reality, Aphelion, and anthologies, a number of them, including California Screamin' and the Horror Writers Association Poetry Showcases. Under Her Eye, Weird Cat, Shunned Houses, Journals of Horror. I'm naming all of these anthologies. She's much published. She's an active member of the Horror Writers Association, the Science Fiction and Fantasy Poetry Association, and the Lewis Carroll Society of North America. Visit Fairy Fly Entertainment, a website Lori shares with her two talented sons, and their YouTube channel at Fairy Fly. They have started a folk band, I love that, called the Fairy Flies. Welcome, Lori R. Lopez.
Thank you. I'm very honored to be here. And I would just say after all that, I tell stories in poetry and prose and art. And I'm going to read some of my poems. Brainstorm. I've been told plenty of times the rain monster's all in my head. Maybe it's true because I never see her on a day when it's gray and wet, the sky white as a dingy old sheet hung out to dry. The kind of morning the soothsaying weather lady pretends zero chance of precipitation, but the clouds must watch another channel. I spot the rain monster in the dark, peering from a window at sheets of water pouring down, catching sight, aware during those striking flashes of lightning before the grumbly ripples of thunder. I glimpse a shadow form, brief and sudden, hypnotically eerie, always a surprise. Taller than a person, wider, with spikes, a distinct shape. Also, when I'm half asleep, between one dream and the next, lids open and closed, she might appear flickering, half there too. Mostly I view her in my nightmares, roaring. It rains a lot in my imagination to make up for the dry spells that are growing worse, cracking the earth, causing lakes to dry, even as seas covet land, grabbing hold, rising. I see her when I'm thirsty, tongue bloated and rough, promising relief, only to laugh, retreat in silence, depart like patches of fog. It's heat stroke, warns my auntie. Stay out of the sun, but there is no light where the shade runs deep and cool, where my thoughts are wild as jungle beasts, and rain is a monster with claws. I'm going to capture her next time she comes, cast a net and drag her home to my closet. Then I will never be parched, never lacking a friend, and never afraid. I will rule the community. Everyone who called me crazy for telling fibs, making up fables about dreadful creatures, will have to admit I was right all along. I wonder what to feed her. I've never had a pet, even a fish, much less my own monster. There she is, a brainstorm. I'll wait for her to slip out, toss the web and tangle it around her so she can't rip free. This is my best idea yet. Hinter Eve. On Hinter Eve stalk the creepiest coots, whether deviantly dreamt or mildly foul. Their watchful eyes as round as tarts. They can turn their heads like an owl. The goons grumble, moan, and whimper snort, yet lack significance as they abide, alone or in stagnant, transparent huddles, shorn of substance, neither hair nor hide. Although some are quite another case, stout of girth and bristle-coated, stubby-limbed and grim of purpose, rather bumpy and grumpy-throated. That hinter zone wherefrom they come is a land of legend, the peculiarest tales, and none can imagine how far it extends, for nobody goes but mad hounds and cur tails. You won't even spy a nightingale's throat, or hear a note, for no bird is heard singing. The air is so still that a needle could drop, and the noise would echo like a large bell ringing. Well known as the bumbles on a bee or wasp, the route to nowhere is paved by misery. Cardboard cutouts of cactus point in silence, while the path is treacherous, no guarantee. Visible, then unseen, woven of tears and bloodshed, a trail of torment carves through the sand, snaking in or out of fog and dark fairy dust, a misleading serpent, a sinister band. The usual signs for rest stops, food and gas, billboards, sparse as phone booths in towns. The barrens seem wild, abandoned by daylight. Tonight they writhe with glares and frowns. When clock gears grind to keep pace with time changes, ball in the sky has gone from gold to gray. Maps and calendar pages tumble like weeds, and walls of shadow puppets refuse to obey. This blacktop shimmers with eerie delusions and circles back to places once past. Every stone at the wayside hides a creature, each stranger and spookier than the last. Hinter Eve may dawn every once in a while, twice a year, some claim. Others aren't as firm. A third time when blue moons mess up astrology and the zodiac goes haywire for a collective squirm. A mere twitch to those in grand urban towers, far from the outermost wasteland and moor. We vulnerable denizens who live too near, inhabiting the ground, the earthen floor, on this desolate eve may suffer grave tolls, being sacrificed to a fiendish horde, feeding the hinterbeast to halt a fierce tide from reaching, overrunning the cities untoward. I would move were I not so terribly poor, to avoid the lottery of eventual bad luck. Being swift or clever leaves much to chance. The next hinter night, I might be a dead duck. Thank you. Line sight. Wanly complected, ethereal of body, the stuff of clouds. They were right, the spiritualists, with their spooky sessions. What's the word? Seances. Language is less defined now, wispy as form. My thinking fluid like the rest of me, composed of vapor. Life so brief. Why all the fuss? In the end, we are the same. Our flesh unpeeled layer by layer, falling in flakes resembling snow, melted by grave or fire. It comes down to this, mere shades of who we are. Correction, were. Even alive, there was little to separate, distinguish, but imagination. Ideas we shaped or chose to accept, become. It was really about that, inspiring our deeds, building fences, breaking them down, herded or left to wander alone. What did any of it mean or matter? In the end, we dissolved to specters, spectators, ghosts of ourselves, watching both present and past. Spirits once possessed for adventure, romance, beauty, whimsy, art, the dark, mayhem, released to bear witness. Behold the misery, examine the missteps of skins with their fleeting, beating hearts and emotions. In hindsight or blindsight, waiting to view what happens. When dust settles, pages turn, wheels of progress churn. Breathless, we anticipate the next chapter, act, scene of this play on life and death. It was also serious, yet we took it too lightly. Ignored the bleats of philosophers and sheep, like we were immune, immortal. The lambs knew what we did not, that each moment was precious, each drop of existence pure joy. They frolicked and laughed until we killed them. The irony is, in death, as in sleep, our eternal task remains to count them over and over. Because they do. They always did. Every single life. Those who couldn't peer through the fog of untruths before their time expired, destined to study and take stock. Tally each victim of oppression, injustice, whether human or not. They had feelings too. They were not so different inside. At last, we see. Thank you. Footsteps. This was published in Under Her Eye, Women in Horror Poetry Anthology, a charity anthology for domestic horror. A scarlet trail of evidence leads straight to me. I won't hide. There are my footprints, it's true, and my hands that still grip the blunt object. His hair, flesh, blood on the receiving end. Whether self-defense or premeditated, I'll let the law determine. Even if it ain't as fair for everyone. I got myself into this, my decision. She told me to go and not look back, told me countless times. How could I abandon my mom? Trapped in that bed, He took away her escape. I never followed in someone else's footsteps. Always thought for myself. You're stronger than any of us, Mama praised. And plenty stubborn. Not like her, afraid of her own breath, gasping or stifled, rushing out in huffs, tense and anxious, scared. Mostly that my dad would be home, iron-fisted, trudging hard, in a foul mood, stamping loudly through the door, his giant ego ever present, overpowering, ominous, unbearable. Even when he was gone, we loathed his presence. She hissed, "He'll be here any minute." I used to blame my mother for being weak, then learned through snippets he would grumble how she ought to regret raising a fist to him, talking back. My dad put her in the chair on wheels. Radine stood up to an abusive bully. Ma wasn't that big, but she let him have it. Gave him a shiner, a crooked nose. To keep him away from me. One night, Dell folded that chair, hauled it out, threw it in the bed of his truck. We never saw the thing again. He sold it. And wouldn't let her visit a doctor anymore. No matter how much she hurt, she'd smile at me. "Hush now. I need you to never mind. It's okay. You've got to stay safe, baby girl, for both of us." Whispers brimming with pain and fear. "Don't do anything, Jess, promise." I tried and tried to keep that pledge until I couldn't. It was time. The steps across the floor were bare and light, unnoticed, unheard, unhurried, unfeared, until it was too late. I was already right behind him. We lived in that house under his rule for ages. I always knew I had his rage, his temper, deep in my core. Like a protection spell, a talisman. Not for me. I would use it for her. When things got really bad, I guess I had some of her restraint, her gentle spirit, because I waited so very long. My daddy's eyes in anger, Mama's soft tread, back when she could walk. The damp footprints of fetching a crowbar in the rain faded. The wet crimson tracks endure. My footprints, my footsteps, all mine. Thank you. The Gondigon. As a child, I played shadow puppets with Mama. I swear at times they seemed to watch us back. My mom would say if I thought about something with all of my heart, I could make it happen. But that's not why the Gondigon is here. I sure can't wish him away. All of me wishes I could. My mother murmured a spooky incantation that kept me awake for nights. Grandma said it was Mama's favorite nursery rhyme, keeping her wide-eyed too. I'll never understand why Mom showed me how to shake the Gondigon with my hands. Since that moment, I feared he might steal me away or gobble me whole. The brute was probably busy, or waited till I was grown. A much larger, meatier morsel. I've caught glimpses of crimson orbs, nightmarish, monstrous forms in the gloom. A fiend's gallery of frightful versions, visions, green and black tendrils writhing, glowing, suspended from a central point. Signs of him in the vicinity. I've seen walls darken, heard guttural, malignant growls, chanting new lines of verse, adding to familiar words. He's right, I can't forget. I can't unhear his morbid jeers. Snatchy, snitchy, gaunt and stitchy, bone and skin, flesh tight and itchy. Birds have flown, the sun has shone. You're all alone in my creepy zone. The lights are on, you need to yawn. Before the dawn comes gone. Scratchy, scritchy, walk so twitchy, bendy, brokey, unmendfully glitchy. A jingle of iron, a tingly chill, causing hearts to race at top speed. A shivery, shuddery flinch of thrill, clenching teeth so hard they bleed, scaring cats to claim their lives, fingernails long as carving knives. Black as ink a ghoul will slink, escaping from a crack or chink. The Gondigon leaves ruts in floors. He'll mark the halls and open doors with skeleton keys hung on a ring. You can't unlisten to him sing. The ghastly voice and silhouette consume me with dread. Mama's in a nursing home, her own mom resting in peace, a non-believer. I'll never understand why he didn't take my mother. I suspect she knows, but isn't telling. Thank you. Thank you. I have one really short. I could read that. Crow is calling. A crow is calling, such a desolate sound, bleak and tuneless, a mournful round, like chanting or ranting, naming and blaming, cursing the shadows, a specter of shaming, offering up plates with pepper tarts, conducting a chorus of lonely hearts. For a ravenesque rook, only one of a feather, without a murder his social tether, must cry to the night, complexion turned white, haunting and daunting by dim moonlight. That's it.
Thank you so much, Lori. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Wow, I shivered. I suppressed tears. I had fears. I had laughter. You took us on such a marvelous, marvelous journey. Oh, this has been such a delightful evening. I wanted to invite the audience to ask questions. You could put them in the chat. You were both so incredible. I want you both to unmute, although I know we have a little issue with sound, but please, Angel and Lori, unmute because I wanted to ask you one question, and then maybe the audience has some questions also. But for each of you, could you tell us how you came to write speculative poetry? How did you find it? How did you begin to do work in this genre? So go ahead, Angel. I heard
I was like, well, the
I
mic
heard
is
you.
off. I mean, on. Uh, okay. Well,
Yeah.
I will say that I have two little parts to the answer. The first part is I, and I've said it before a few times that when I was young, I didn't have any confidence in my writing because I was an ESL kid when I was in school, so I was held back from the first grade, and I was very insecure reading. And so poetry was the first place where I realized I could break rules. I could break everything. The grammar, I could put words wherever I wanted to put them. And that magic of putting words and playing with them was how I fell in love with writing at all and telling stories at all. It was like the first part of my agency as a little baby child, little baby poet. Um, and that part of me is still here today. And speculative was because, I mean, it's interesting because it was the first thing I naturally tended to, was to speculate, to imagine, to go to fairy tales, which were my first things. I think that it's speculative poetry feels to me like there isn't, sometimes it feels like there's not even an educational barrier. Like there isn't there, it feels like it's the poetry of the people, because even if I couldn't afford like to go to colleges or get a master's degree, like as you mentioned in the opening, like poetry, that kind of poetry has been fed to us forever in nursery rhymes and on folk tales, and like the passing down, like my grandma telling me about La Llorona, like every
Mm,
story,
mm,
all those things were given to me, and I didn't have to pay for college to give it to me. I found it through just my family and oral storytelling. And so I fell in love with speculative. And then, being Mexican and being trans, like you have to speculate. You
mm,
have to imagine constantly and exist in different than what you have. And
mm,
so that's why speculative will always be the poetry of my life.
mm, Thank you. Lori?
Well, I have to say that I just always loved, you know, uh, dark things, horror, but also a lot of humor, like Alice in Wonderland, Through the Looking Glass. Just such a combination of chills and thrills and humor, and it's amazing, and I really uh, have loved, just inspired by, I was just inspired by books and movies and things and TV shows like, the Addams Family and a lot of spooky things. And it's been, just when I grew up, they were on prime time, some of those classics. And so it just felt like a great time to be a kid, and just so many wonderful influences. And I love speculative poetry because it combines, it's not just one type of genre. It combines ones that I love, and and I find that in my work, whether it's poetry or prose, I do blend genres. I do combine various ones. So that's it just feels right to me. It just seemed like a great fit, you know when and I was writing it before I knew what it was called. So,
Ah, yes.
so
Me too. Yes.
yeah.
We've got some wonderful questions in the chat, so I will read them to you. Starting with from Angela Acosta, a wonderful poet. Could you talk about maybe what traditions, mythologies, folklores, scary stories inspire or bring energy to your poetry? You both touched on this, but maybe you could say more. Angel and Lauren.
You want to go first, Lori?
Um, I didn't quite hear the
Okay.
everything.
Could you talk about what traditions, mythologies, folklore, scary stories inspire or bring energy to your poetry? And I said that you both touched on this, but maybe you could say a bit more.
Okay. It's I would say that when I started writing poetry, because I was writing prose and I was writing songs. For years I was writing songs. I've written about 50, though I've forgotten how some of them go. And but um, I just loved rhymes and everything since I was a child, and so I really had to write poetry. It just
No.
felt natural. So, but as far as mythology and like horror stories and things like that, it's just it I just feel so amazed, to be able to do something that's a part of such things, such communities, such uh, history of amazing things, like you say, about the background of, it's really so deep, and it just reaches through,
It's
from
in
here
us.
to there and everywhere.
It's in you. It's in you, right? Angel, you want to talk about any particular traditions and mythologies or folklores that inspire and bring energy to your poetry?
Yes. So for me, there is of course like the Mexican tradition, but surprisingly, like the very first tradition I found with poetry, ever, the first poem I ever read that I remember when I was like 6 or 7 or 8, was The Stolen Child, which is a very famous poem by Yeats. And that poem, I it was the first poem like that I remember. Oh, come away, oh human child, to the waters and to the wild, the fairy hand in hand. The world is
Mm,
more full of weeping than you can understand. And if you hear that lyrical thing, a touch of that is in everything I write. Like there is something of that sentiment, like of a sense of beauty and magic and mystery, but like with sadness that like and mourning in my poems that I still got from Yeats as a little boy, as a little child, And when I got older and it was passed down, like, and I remembered my grandma telling me stories. Like one example, since I know we don't have too much time, is the Duende. I have a
mm,
poem coming out in Uncanny magazine called My Duende,
mm,
Inside the Walls and in the Mirror. And it's as if you for anyone who doesn't know what a duende is, it's a very strange little gnome that lives inside the walls of children's bedrooms. And it's a very judgmental, strange creature. And what it does is if your toenails grow too long, it'll cut your toenails and it'll like do weird cleaning things that it's just kind of mean and nasty. And I kind of made it to where like as a child, the duende is picking on me and uh judging me, and then when an adult, the duende is in my mirror judging my my gender. That's like something where I couldn't even have thought of that concept except that it was in tradition already. This strange creature felt so good for dysphoria and not loving your face and your body. We all have duendes
mm,
telling us we're not good enough
mm.
and we need to cut our toenails. So I can think of many examples, but I wanted to give you all that story.
Thank you. There are a couple more. We'll do one more because we're slightly over time. Um, and I'll pick this one and hope that the ones I skipped will be in touch with you. When you write, do you prefer structured poem formats or more free form poetry? And I felt I heard both in your readings. So if you want to comment on the form of your poetry and what it's like. Lori, as I heard, Lori did a lot of intertwining rhymes, end rhymes, and midline rhymes. Um, but the question was, when you write, do you prefer structured poems or more free form?
I used to write more rhyming ones than I do now. Uh, but now I write free form too, a lot of not rhyming, and but I my favorite are rhyming. I just always go back to that. It's just something in my heart that you know from Dr. Seuss and and all sorts of, like you mentioned, the Raven. There's just so many things that I just fell in love with. The Highwaymen, just a lot of things,
Oh, one of
you
my
know.
ancient favorites.
Just
There's
yeah,
a soul
just
behind
carry
it.
them with me, and it's I just pour out what I pour out, and there's a lot of humor, but I like the dark ones too, and it's fun. Um, I do have the a sequel to the Dark Mister Snark coming out finally after 10 years. Next year, it will be coming out. And I finally managed to get to that. And people wanted more Mr. Snark. So I'm finally getting it done. So I'm it rhymes, it's rhyming narrative, and it's fun. I just really love writing about Mr. Snark. So
We look forward to it. We hope you'll tell us when it comes out so we can signal boost. I'm here to signal boost, folks. So let me know. Angel, what do you prefer, structured poem formats, forms, or free form?
Okay, so on this, I relate so much to Lori. I relate so much to you because I also have tended to freeform like in these past few years, but I have a sick um love affair with rhymes. Like it won't leave me. Like I love it. I do love it. And it's like yeah, it's like it started with Yeats, but also yeah, Poe and Shel
Mhm.
Silverstein and just like hip hop, everything like it I love it so much. Like it I wrote probably 10 years of nothing but rhyming poems before. Like before I was like, oh I let me try free verse and but rhyming is like an old sweetheart. Like there's something about that limitation. Like I don't know. It makes everything feel like music. It makes it feel I mean it is the essence of lyric. And it does feel even more attuned to the ancient poetry of all time. So I love it. When I feel it, I feel like I'm doing something of an endless tradition. It's a very beautiful feeling. It's different than free verse, but free verse is also free. But I love both. So the answer I'm sorry, it's almost the same thing as Lori. It's just I do free verse, but I'll never let go of rhyming too.
Mhm. Well, we're past time, but I did not want to depart without asking both of you what your future projects are. Lori already told us, so we're looking forward to Mr. Snark. Angel, you want to tell us what's coming up for you?
Yes. The Uncanny poem is coming out in December
Mm,
4th. Y'all will be able to read it for free.
thank you.
And then in a few days, I think November 11th actually, I'll put it on my website. And I'll drop my website here so it's easy. Anyone who wants to read more poems. But I have two poems coming out and a little story called Bug Girl Fits in a Jar.
Say again,
And
Bug Girl Fits in a Jar.
yeah. And yeah, and then one of the poems is called Writing Letters in Our Sleep, which is
Oh,
about writing letters to my father.
oh.
Um, so yeah, those are coming out. That one's coming out literally in like 2 days, and then the other one in December. So thank y'all so much for being here and listening and like just being a part of speculative poetry. It's so wonderful to have everyone here.
Anything else, Lori?
yes, I want to thank everyone for being here and you, Akua, for all that you're doing. It's amazing. It
It,
really
it,
is.
it, it
It's
is my
true.
honor. It is my honor and my privilege because you two are such wonderful creators. And I want us to continue to connect and build community in these fractious times. So let me thank both Angel and Lori for these gorgeous, moving, inspiring for me readings. I'm excited to write some more verse, to hear you some more, to follow your work. I thank you, audience, for coming and listening. Please spread the word. Please come again. Next week, we've got two different poets, and throughout this month of November, Speculative Poetry Month, we're presenting speculative poets. Peace to you all, and safety, and goodwill, and good night.